What's up guys, it's Punchy, and today it's time for another Deepwoken weekly patch. For this update, there's a bunch of new tools to mess around with and a refreshing approach to stuff that we already know. I do think it's pretty crazy, but I don't know if it's as crazy as last week. I mean, last time we got the new legendary Gale Claws, which are really fun, alongside the ridiculous Kanabo damage, so I guess we'll see. As always, test out everything for yourself in-game. Anyway, I'll do my best to show you what's up, and let's get right into it. Starting off with a new Deepwoken announcement, we have something interesting that you might want to check out. If you're a fan of the real-life Sharko plush that dropped a few months ago, this could be for you. Currently available on the Makeshift website, they have Duke Erisia for sale, but only for a limited time. It's honestly pretty goofy, but I think that's the entire point. So anyway, if you want to cop the infamous Duke Erisia, head on over to the Deepwoken Twitter and they have some links. Anyway, moving into the actual game, we have a large focus on enchant visuals across the board. Usually, most enchants work well, but sometimes they can be so bright, or I guess intrusive, that we actually can't see anything, which is a giant gameplay issue. In this update, several enchants have been adjusted because of this, and some fully reworked, including both weapon and armor options. So here's a comparison from before and after the update. First off, detonation seems to be a little bit less bright, with a smaller glowing cloud and less orbiting embers in the new patch. Tears of the Eating Kite enchant also got a similar treatment with way less intrusive visuals and a reduction of bubble glow. For armor enchants, multiplicity brightness has simply been reduced, which is nice to see. Entanglement also has less glowing emission and a reduced particle count on all armor. Now, moving on to some full-on reworks for visuals, we do have a few to showcase currently in this patch. First off, the Stench enchant looks even more gross and darker than its original bright glowing appearance. Honestly, I think the point of this was to make it even more nasty looking, which makes sense. The Allure enchant now has animated hearts that vary a bit in color compared to Charm, which is great for visual clarity. Moving forward, the Adhesive enchant looks a little bit more pink than purple, matching the color of the Elastic enchant. Finally, it seems the Bounce enchant also got a small improvement, but I think it's I guess it's more animated or moving around, but to be honest, I can barely notice. Anyway, all of these changes are pretty nice in my opinion for visual clarity and I guess drip, and they definitely look a lot better than before. While we're still on the topic of armor enchants, it's interesting to note that Multiplicity got a nerf. This enchant would sometimes heal the user on hit and restore some resources, but it had absolutely zero cooldown. In this update, it received a 5-second cooldown alongside a nerf to the overall healing. It's small but pretty game-changing for specific builds. Shifting our focus to some visual improvement, we finally have a shortcut to view our max stats. In-game, the only good way to view your stats, like your max health, max ether, resistance, and whatever else, is at a campfire, but now it's way easier. By pressing tab, you can view all relevant stats on the far right alongside a toggle option next to equipment, so this should streamline information and make it easier to understand what is changing on your build. As a bonus, for extra visual updates, there's been an overall contrast decrease in the world of Deepwoken. Basically, lights are not as bright and shadows aren't as dark, so it should be easier to see. Another thing that was reworked today was a new dual wield idle animation, which basically only affects the curved blade of winds. This kind of reminds me of Elden Ring and how that looks in game, and it's definitely cool. Moving on to balancing, we have a few things to address that might shake up the meta. Starting off with the Kanabo, a ridiculously overpowered weapon that can legitimately two-shot builds, we have some changes. First off, the standing baseball critical has always been desynced in animation, so if we look at the timing of this attack, players continue to get slapped before the bat even hits them, which is honestly impossible to react to. Regardless, this critical timing has supposedly been fixed, which should make the Kanabo crit a little bit more reactable. Moving forward with yet another legendary weapon change, we got some adjustments to the Pleeksty's Inferno. For the critical attacks, the initial hit of the Inferno sprinting crit, the slash, not the actual projectile, no longer instant guard breaks, which is kinda sad to see. Moving on, for the final hit of the Pleeksty ground crit, now this instantly guard breaks, which will be insane for roll catching. I don't know how good this weapon adjustment will be after these changes, but I guess we'll have to see. Further, with balancing, we also got a small adjustment to the Skyshatter kick around Spark. This mantra hits pretty hard and comes out quickly, resulting in a small wind-up nerf. So after this update, it should be easier to react against since it is slower. Next up, with an absolutely game-changing nerf to Shadowcast, we have a partial rework of the Encircle mantra. This ability is known for move stacking with mantras and always teleporting in, but it has been changed pretty fundamentally. So in this patch, Encircle no longer TPs the user while they're stunned, and players can only cast mantras during the first half of Encircle's windup. Honestly, this is nice, and it should prevent unavoidable nonsense in the future. Alongside some other balance changes today, I think it's about time to mention a pretty massive update to base combat parry stun. So parry stun, the time you cannot act after being parried, has been slightly decreased to hopefully assist punishing feints. Although it's not a giant shift, I think this is positive for overall back and forth interactions, cause who wants to be in stun for that long and you couldn't act. And for now, that's all I got for today. There's even more content released in today's update, so keep an eye out and continue to explore. For the weekend, make sure to check out Weekly Battle Royale as the wait for Conquest continues. Anyway, thanks so much, and if you want even more exclusive update content just like this, make sure to like and subscribe. Let's reach 90k subs. Thanks again, it's punchin' time.